Hello, I'd like to give my opinion about what the problem is about giving young children access to the internet.
What, the whole internet?
Yeah, literally the whole internet.
Okay.
The internet is essentially any computer can connect to any other computer. Any person can connect to any other person. Not specifically via social media or chat apps, but literally anyone can host a website or a service or anything on the internet, which means that anyone can talk to anyone on the internet. Now, when we're talking about young children, 14, 15-year-olds, I wouldn't necessarily let a stranger be in that kid's bedroom with the door closed.
No.
And that's what's happening when we give these children full unvetted access to the internet. We're allowing them access to strangers in their bedroom with the door closed.
So you're you're going very much down the content rather than addiction argument, and also I think you've got the ghost train on your side, haven't you? You've got the selling tickets for the ghost train. It sounds already much more frightening than selling tickets for the Speak Your Weight machine, which is talking about state corporate harm maximisation and the addictive nature of the technology. That's not really frightening a mid to ill-informed parent, but what you've just said is terrifying. It doesn't mean you're right. It just means that you've got the best tunes.
That's a very interesting point. I'm a very good ghost train operator. But what I would say is that
But you're talking about the freakish exceptions, which we are all frightened by. What the government is doing is not really legislating. I mean, hopefully any legislation would include those freakish horror shows that you're talking about. But what their top priority is dealing with the massive majority of people who are susceptible and vulnerable to unextraordinary events, which is addictive technology.
I disagree that I'm talking about the exception. I believe that we've been trying to create laws...
No, but you are. There are way more people who've developed an addiction to social media than there are people who've been groomed online without their parents' knowledge.
No, quite right. But I think the addiction to social media is less harmful than the general.
That's it. You're the perfect caller, because I don't know. I don't think I agree with you, and yet I can't really win this argument because you will just say terrifying things, and I'll sound like an idiot when I say, "Oh, I'm more worried about something else." How can you be more worried about there's a paedophile over there in your daughter's computer screen? But I'm actually
okay. Well, let me offer this.
Yeah,
then.
go on.
So in the early 90s, I think the conversation around the internet and harm to children was around pornography. Then it moved on to social media, and now it's moved on to chatbots. I think if you try and legislate against these specific services, you're not going to win the game of whack-a-mole, because there's going to be something new that comes along.
Not if it's a ban on all social media, like they've done in Australia. Are you in the industry?
Yes, I'm a software developer.
Okay, so, I mean, in a way, you wouldn't want more legislation in your sector.
Well, I do want protection against children being able to contact anyone else on the internet.
So in the absence of a ban on social media, how would that be affected?
Well, I think when we talk about social media, we talk about these very large tech companies like Facebook and X, and you can regulate those companies. They are somewhat accountable. You can bring them up to Congress, and you can sanction them, and you can legislate against them, but you can't do... Go on.
Technically you can, but you remember who was sitting behind Donald Trump at his inauguration. It was all the people that most sensible folk would like to see better regulated, and they're spending enormous amounts of money on energy and on resisting regulation furiously and pretending that it's some sort of threat to free speech. I'm just trying to work out where we agree with each other. So we want more regulation, but you don't think a social media ban is the answer. You think that punishing the platforms more effectively for some of the stuff that they post. But then we all get addicted to wholesome content. So we're still spending 6 or 7 hours a day, but we're looking at sauna adverts and ping pong clips.
Yes, well, I think those kind of adverts we were necessarily getting before social media. I think back to...
It's a bad example. I mean something that is addictive, like me watching parcels blow up on people's doorsteps, or me watching ping pong clips or people have parkour at the moment. I've told you before, James. Well, not you personally. I've told everybody. My algorithms are so wholesome. I don't fully understand why. It must just be I don't even click on me. If I see me scrolling past, I don't stop. I let that one go. But I will stop to watch ping pong or I'll stop to watch parkour. Parkour's amazing.
So I'm 23, so I think my age is kind of, I don't have any kids, so I don't...
No, you've grown up with this. You're the first generation,
exactly.
Really, that's been steeped in it.
That's kind of my point, because I've had social media since I was 12 or 13 about, and I remember sort of fighting my mum to have it, and she was kind of reluctant. But I think with generations that are slightly younger than me, like my friends' younger siblings that are sort of teenagers, mid or like maybe sort of 14 to 18 right now, me and my friends who are in our mid-20s, we've seen the gradual extreme sort of the scale swing quite extreme, and we've watched it happen slowly. So I think we can see it a little bit more clearly.
So you're the boiled frogs, where the temperature has been slowly turned up.
We're the first generation that's had social media for our entire.
Let me, before I dig further into your experiences, let me just hit you with some yes/no questions. Would you ban social media for under 16?
Yes, I think.
Do you know people who you could reasonably describe as negatively or detrimentally addicted to social media?
Yeah.
And do you know people whose lives have been ruined by it?
I don't know about ruined.
Okay.
But it's hard to say what that means. Yeah, I would say so, yeah.
So what are the worst things that you can draw on or recall?
I would say, there's obviously like the sort of online bullying thing that kind of happens in every school, which was kind of happening sort of when I was kind of getting older. But I think for me, like the main point is it's ruining everyone's life in the sense that it's subtracting the time that you spend in the real world. And that's the addictive quality of it. But then the more harmful content can actually distort your perception of reality and people in the real world. So one of them is removing you from it and removing the time that you have to operate, in your real sort of tangible material world and life. And the other one is actually actively distorting your perception of it.
Yeah, so it's not either or. It's
exactly.
Both. And the more addictive it is, the more the second factor becomes problematic. When would you say, at the tender age of 23, he says in a very patronising fashion, when did you wake up to this? When did you start realising this?
I sort of always knew it was kind of bad. I always had this sense. So I went to a Steiner school.
Yeah.
So they have quite a strong ethos about sort of not... or trying to sort of inhibit the amount of the effect of technology, because it's a slightly sort of hippie school, I suppose, I guess you could say. So a lot of Steiner parents were very, very sort of strict on it and sort of didn't have TVs in the house. My parents weren't like that.
See, that was going to be my next question. I had this producer 20 years ago who used to be very impatient with people saying, oh, it's such a shame children aren't playing outdoors more. And it's a bit, I know that's a Steiner ethos, but also you reminded me of that when you started talking about the importance of connecting with the real world. I spent much of the weekend playing Ghost of Yote on my PlayStation, and that was much, much more fun than I would have had in the garden with a stick pretending to be a samurai soldier. So where do we derive our confidence that we are losing something by being on a screen that we would get if we weren't? What if we're just wrong about that?
Yeah, I suppose it requires a level of sort of self-discipline. I don't think, playing a video game, ultimately, it can be addictive. Different. It is addictive.
And it's ultimately pointless.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I think...
But it's great fun, and I loved it.
You dedicate these times to yourself when you can allow your brain to kind of rot a little bit.
Yeah.
And I have that. I watch Love Island after a day of reading books. And
That's it. So what we're tracking is, and this is why I said, what's the point at which it becomes a problem? It becomes addictive. So we're describing escapism, and what I think you've touched on is the thing where you're doing so much escaping that you're no longer actually inhabiting the world that escapism allows you to escape from. You're stuck in the parallel.
I'm going to use Australia as an example. If you take away social media, what are you putting in place for young people or other individuals as an alternative?
Yeah.
So we can go surfing, we've got great weather, we've got positive dopamine responses to something we can do in the community. Here in the UK, we've got no youth service, and if we unpick everything, there's a lot of things which have happened which have created these problems. So we've got cost of living crisis, and this is not any judgment against any parents, but the baby who's crying or the children who are really running you ragged, and you give them a phone or you give them a tablet and they sit there day in, day out.
They're quiet.
They're quiet. However, they are being impacted by the internet. In the same case...
How are they being impacted? I mean, I know they are. I'm not. That wasn't a gotcha question. It sounded like one of my. Go on, then give me one example. I know they're being impacted, but just I want to hear it in your words.
Being impacted by no human interaction.
Okay.
So they're not sitting around the table and saying, "Oh, you're lovely, you're amazing. What are we doing tomorrow? Let's do this. Let's put the phones down." So the science has already told us about the impact that the internet has on dopamine, serotonin, oxytocin, and everything else. We're not actually using the measures and controls that we have in place to have a conversation. So what we do in our settings is that where we can monitor the internet, and we do this, and we see a significant change in mood, it's about a conversation. So the things that are really impacting some of our vulnerable are where eating disorders are present.
Yes.
And they're going on TikTok and they're following somebody who is, for example, there's a red band kind of trend at the moment which supports anorexia. And it's really negative content. But what we can do is have that conversation. We've got those young people that are on apps like Telegram, which we can see actually, why are you on Telegram so much?
Right.
Or even just simple as Roblox. You know, why is my daughter or my son on Roblox from 3 a.m. in the morning? Is that really a time? Again, it's the conversation. So we've built.
So would you ban anything?
Yeah,
would you ban anything?
I would ban, in the absence of this country providing better opportunities for young people, because the genie's out of the bag. We're 10 years down the line. So
you would ban because it's too late to do some of the things. So an under 16 ban on social media, imperfect and loophole, vulnerable, but better than the status quo, better than where we are now.
But what you can do is ban certain social media applications in the absence of those tech companies making the changes that they need to.
I called in a few months ago and I was in the middle of a lesson. Do you remember the call?
Yes, I do, actually. Yes, it's not to be encouraged, that kind of thing, but it was very pleasant at the time.
Yeah. So I'm going to look at it from the lens of just being in the school and how it affects the students. I think the main thing is the attention span. But on the weekend, on the Monday morning, you have the support team and the pastoral team. They'll be dealing with issues that have spilled over from the weekend due to social media, due to things like issues that have happened between students and between the students during the weekend. So it affects not only how they are in the lesson with how they focus,
yeah, of course, but beyond that as well.
But beyond that as well.
And so, I mean, say there's 40, 50 kids in a class. How many of them are going to be up to their ears in this stuff?
I think that it varies. The best way to gauge it is with attainment. So there are students who are more distracted than others. And, like in a private school, for example, students are less distracted. Is that something from the parents? I don't know what is done differently.
The much smaller classes, most obviously. It's a lot easier it's a lot harder to hide in private school. So my memories are 40 years old now, but if I had been in a class of 40 or 50 people, I don't think I'd ever have done anything. I'm so easily distracted. But in a class of 8, I couldn't hide.
I think it's definitely like more socioeconomic factors because they're all the same age, but it's just it comes from the parents.
And there'll be some neurodiversity as well. I mean, I find it very hard to concentrate in many circumstances in ways that other people don't, and so that susceptibility to distraction is going to be quite hard to properly legislate for because you'll end up taking things away from people who are fine in order to protect people who are not. So what would you do? I mean, in the school, you can take the phones away or ban phones in school, but you're not banning social media. Would you back the 16s, what they've done in Australia? Under 16s can't get on social media anymore. And it can be done because it happened with pornography last year, didn't it? When suddenly it became impossible to access a lot of the porn sites without proving that you were of a certain age.
Yeah, I mean, I think you have to a blanket ban. Children students would find their way around it.
Some would, but a lot wouldn't. Again, the pornography example works. Loads of people have just stopped accessing those sites. I think one of them is closing down as a consequence. I mean, for good or for ill.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be against a complete blanket ban. But I think it would. Sometimes I think even the parents would need a retraining on how much is affecting their kids.
Yeah, no. I mean, the other problem with the blanket ban is the people who really rely upon it for a whole heap of reasons. Not least, actually, not least neurodiversity. A lot of